on figs. So one's at Shavuot and one's at Sukkot, which is pretty cool. The other piece is that a lot of the vegetables and things that come out in the spring that would be part of this first offering are things that we need right now. They're the things that nourish us after the hard winter, like dandelions and all these greens are exactly what we need. And then we need different things for the summer. And so we replant in May, the stuff that's going to carry us through the summer and into the fall. Anyway, just we
No,
get different things from the
yeah.
earth when we need them.
And I just say I kind of I messed up a little bit. It has nothing to do with you guys. There was something I was supposed to click on that that put everything into the live streaming, and I didn't do it. I didn't do it. So I just started the live stream, which means that I'm sure nobody stuck around for it. But if there is anyone that has now found themselves on Facebook, they can join us on Zoom, or they could stay where they are. Uh, an hour late. Oh well. I'm still learning. Okay, that was a new thing that I learned just before we got on, and I skipped it. Oh well. Sorry about that, everyone out there. Okay, thank you, Karen. The other part about the Omer that's important, besides that sort of very sort of positive spin on the unfolding and the natural world, is that the Omer is supposed to be also, though, a sad time, a mournful time, even a waiting time. Um, you know, traditional Jews during the Omer practice a little bit of prohibitions against joy, or outward joy. You're not supposed to listen to live music or go to a concert.
Or get your hair cut.
Thank you, Marion. Hello.
It's relevant this year.
Or get your hair. All those things are relevant this year, actually. You're not supposed to dance. It does sound a little bit like our quarantine time, right? So why is that? Well, the midrash that I like the best that explains why it's supposed to be sort of a heavy, sort of ponderous time instead of a joyful time, is that in the interim between escaping from slavery and receiving Torah, we're taught that was a sad time, because although they had the initial burst of celebration with Miriam at the shore of the sea, they didn't yet have Torah. So the people, after their first sort of moments of exclamation and ecstasy at being free, were kind of lost. They were lost in the wilderness. They had Moses and Miriam and Aaron, but they were unmoored. They were used to slavery, to be doing whatever they were told, and all of a sudden they had nobody, and certainly they were glad to be free from slavery. But it was until they got the Torah, they had no guide, and the Torah became their guide, a much better guide, obviously, than a taskmaster or a slave master. And that's why the rabbis of the Talmud explain it through story that this 50-day period is a semi-mourning period. And in the spirit of that, as I sort of mentioned at the beginning, a number of more modern or contemporary sacred times were added to the calendar right in this period. So the two that I'm going to talk about or mention, because they're going to be talked about in future university series, are Yom HaShoah, which this year is April 20th, the commemoration, the remembrance of the Holocaust, right in the midst of the Omer period. And then Yom HaZikaron, which is an Israeli observation, but obviously Jews all over the world who also observe that as well, which is a memorial day for soldiers who die in battle, Israeli soldiers, and that's April 27th. And so it was very deliberate that those two sort of mournful mourning days were added, when they were added, because they were added obviously in the 20th century, were added right in this period of the count of the Omer. I'm going to do one more thing and then see if there are questions, and I'm going to move on to something else, to Lag BaOmer. But the other thing that is taught, well, this is actually the transition to Lag BaOmer. So does anyone have anything they want to put into the mix here? Okay. So Lag BaOmer. Yes, Helene.
Um, I thought it was really interesting to draw a comparison to myself. That one of the things I've been thinking about a lot today is the lack of structure, and I'm not getting anything done. So as you're talking about the transition from slavery to getting the Torah, and that they didn't have the structure of the life that they knew. And so what do you do while you're wandering and you don't have a purpose and you don't know what you're going for? And I feel like I'm on that journey myself.
Yep.
And also the I was also playing with the idea of, why do you take a sacrifice at the very beginning? Because everything's coming in at the end. And I think it's a constant reminder that there are forces other than us that are doing the work, and be grateful for the renewal, but then you're also grateful for the fruits of your own labor. But what you have now is not the result of your own labor, what's coming out now from
I was
nature.
I was thinking also this year, as we count the Omer, it'll be interesting to see where we are as a society in terms of the pandemic. 40 some days from now, when the Omer period is over, I kind of don't know. We certainly won't be fully out of the danger, but I think we'll be at a different. I hope we'll be at a different place as a world community dealing with the virus than we are now. And I think part of the Omer this year is going to be us paying attention not just to nature and the unfolding, but the unfolding of events that are happening. Are we flattening the curve? Are cases diminishing? Are less people dying? God willing, and are we returning more to our normal lives? I think that's part of the task, I think, of this particular very unusual and surreal Omer time. Like, it was a unreal and surreal Passover. I started saying at my Seder, not only what makes this night different from all other nights, what makes this Passover different from all other Passovers, what makes this Omer period different from all other Omer periods. And I don't think we even need to spend a lot of time, because we all know, and there's nobody that doesn't know. There's nobody in the world. It's something just so mind-boggling that there's not anyone in the world that is untouched by what is happening right now. So I'll leave it there. Back in history, the other thing that's talked about in this Omer period that it's a more what? Yeah, Bobby.
I got to split. Say goodbye.
Oh,
Got to split.
Good night, Bobby.
Good night.
What, did you finish the wine? Gotta go get a new bottle, huh?
The
wine finished you, Bobby.
All right. So we'll go another like 20 minutes, and then we'll count the Omer. And thanks for hanging in there, you guys. I feel so badly I didn't do everything I was supposed to do, but I'm getting there. So this was another point in history, a traumatic point in history, that during the Roman occupation of Judea, 24,000 Jews were killed after a Jewish revolt against Rome. And legend has it, or history says, that on the 33rd day of the Omer is when the killing stopped, right? Interesting, again, in light of what's happening here. Obviously, this is different kind of deaths that are occurring. But on the 33rd day, the killing stopped, and 33 is the Lamed is the 30, and the Gimel is the 3. That's why we call the 33rd day Lag BaOmer. And because the killing stopped on Lag BaOmer, the prohibitions we now, even in traditional Judaism, those prohibitions are lifted just for one day, and people can listen to music, and there's Lag BaOmer in Israel and other places as a day of celebration, and of course bonfires, and as Marian intonated, haircuts. So even when you can't get your haircut, and we're not quarantined. If you can't get your haircut because you're following the rules of Omer, you can get your haircut on the 33rd day, on Lag BaOmer, and that's that observance. There's another story about Lag BaOmer, which is the rabbi named Shimon Bar Yochai, who was a Mishnah era rabbi, and he is widely known in the tradition, or regarded in the tradition, of having written the Zohar, the mystical commentary on the Torah. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was said to have died on the 33rd day of the Omer, but he did not want his death to be a mournful time. He wanted it to be a celebration. And again, another reason why we have Lag BaOmer as an interruption, a stop in all of the different prohibitions of the Omer period. And there's a legend about Bar Yochai that I've told before, that as he was dying, he gathered all his students around him, and he started to tell all of his stories and teach all of his lessons. And he had so much to say and so much to teach that the day extended. The sun didn't set until he was done. So it was this unnatural day, like kind of those days in Alaska that the sun doesn't set for more than 24 hours. And when he was done teaching, the sun set and he died, right? And so in honor, some say, of that incredible miracle of increased light, we have bonfires on Lag BaOmer, and people, thousands and thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people gather in a little town in Israel near Sfat in the mountains called Merom. Beautiful place, which is where Shimon Bar Yochai was said to have died and where he was said to be buried. And it's a big, huge party. And there's bonfires, and kids the next day get their first haircut when they're 3 years old. And I went there the year I lived in Israel. I went to Merom for Lag BaOmer, and I have pictures. You guys want to see them? Okay. Here we go. You ready? Share screen. Oh, no, no, no. You know what? It wasn't up. I'm so sad. And I think it wasn't already up on my... let's see. Hold on one second. Hold on. One more thing. You don't see me now, right? But do you hear me?
See you and hear you.
Oh, wow. I don't see you guys. Okay, wait. Do you guys see that?
No.
Pictures or no?
No.
Hold on.
Nope.
Hold on. Okay, wait. Okay, now I'm going to try again. Oh, yeah, I did it. Do you guys see it?
Yay.
Wow. Okay, so this is, wow. This is Merom. Do you see the picture of the big giant fire?
Yeah.
So that's one of, Amy and we camped out that night, and you basically go from fire to fire, and there's different groups of people, and there's Hasidic and non-Hasidic and Orthodox and non-Orthodox. So there's one of the big bonfires, and there's another one you could see below. You could see the fire extinguisher actually laying down there on the rock. There's a bunch of yeshiva boys by their fire. See the guy playing guitar? Those guys are Bratzlover Hasidim, which is sort of the Hasidim that are a little more free-flowing and less rigid. That's Reb Nachman's band of Hasidim. So you can sort of see they're kind of hanging out. There's a boy with the kippah who was going to get his first haircut the next day. because it's going to be. So this is Erev Lag BaOmer with the fires. The next day is Lag BaOmer itself. And then, this was my favorite. You see these pictures? We camped out. We just sort of slept on the ground. And when we woke up, the first thing I saw was this guy davening in the morning. And you can see there he is by a... You could see it's kind of mountainous. And so that's my little... my show and tell. Lag BaOmer in Merom. There we go. Ha! As my friend Billy said, coup d'etat. When you
Do you have the photo of Gabe's first haircut?
Well, that's a different class. That wasn't on Lag BaOmer actually. That was on his 3rd birthday. Thanks, Marian. That was.
I thought it was Lag BaOmer.
It wasn't. It was. You can either do it. I mean, you can do it anytime you want, but the tradition is either the 3rd birthday itself or Lag BaOmer, and we chose to do it on his 3rd birthday. Somebody else.
I learned something new.
Yeah, so I think there was someone before Gabe, before I started CRC, someone I know now, but I can't think of who it was, who had their Upsharen on Lag BaOmer, and it was a big deal at CRC. But I can't put my finger on who it was. I'm checking the time. Okay. So there's Lag BaOmer. I want to move on a little bit to spring. I'm going to pull back some text. All right. Back to these. This is the same text sheet that we had before. I guess I'll read. These are just a short text here from, I believe this is Exodus. I didn't cite it. I'm sorry about that. But see where it says, observe the month of Aviv and celebrate the Passover of God. You guys all see that?
Mm-hmm.
So it says, observe the month of Aviv and celebrate the Passover of God, because in the month of Aviv, God brought you out of Egypt at nighttime. So what's a little bit off about that passage in terms of what we know about the Jewish calendar and Passover? Anybody?
We came out of Nissan.
Exactly. Ding, ding, ding. There is no month of Aviv. Now, the month is called Nisan, as Helene said. But in the Torah, this month is called Aviv. Does anyone know what the word Aviv means now in Hebrew?
Spring.
Spring is correct. Aviv is spring. Actually, my wife Amy's Hebrew name is Aviva, which means spring, the feminine, in the feminine form. So this is interesting. The month of Passover in the Torah is different than the month that we know. So what we know about the Hebrew months is that most of them were named or renamed in Babylonian exile, right? So there was, they were taken from Babylonian names. So the month of Aviv turned into the month of Nisan. But the point is that Passover has to happen in Aviv, and besides being the Torah version of this month, it also means spring. And so I think, as many of you guys know, that the calendar is fixed so that Passover will always be in spring. And so there are every 7 years a year where we have 2 months of Adar, which makes sure that the lunar calendar doesn't slide Passover into summer. So the comparison is with Islam. So Islam, like Judaism, is a lunar calendar religion, but they don't do leap years. They don't have a holiday that they need to be fixed to a season like Jews do. Therefore, Ramadan can happen in every season, just depending on the year. This year, it happens to be now, the end of April, but it can be in the summer, it can be in the fall, it can be in the winter, right? So Judaism needed Passover to be in the spring, Aviv, and so the calendar was fixed that way. Anybody, before I do kind of transitions here? The other text down there is from the Song of Songs. That is also about springtime, and the Song of Songs, the Shir HaShirim, is the Megillah of Passover, right? Because it's a springtime book, and it's love poetry, and it's about lovers and about springtime and about nature, and it almost wasn't in the Bible. A lot of you have heard me say this, and it's true. We know from the historians, it almost wasn't included in the Bible because it was so sexual and sensual, and the rabbis or the Sanhedrin thought it was too racy to be in the Bible. But they put it in the Bible. One of the reasons was because they thought if they made it part of the Bible, that people wouldn't recite it in the bars. They wouldn't recite it to each other as love poetry, which we certainly can do now. But they thought they basically co-opted it. They took this literature that was sort of used for secular purposes, and they sanctified it, and so that's kind of interesting to me. And they took the part that was about two lovers, kind of reciting poetry to the other, and they said it wasn't two human lovers, it was God and the Israeli people who were in relationship with each other. John Sammett's back. Hold on. Okay. Did we get him back? I invited him in. Anyway. That's the Song of Songs, and there's one little passage for the Song of Songs here. It says, "Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is passing, flowers appear on the earth, and the time for singing has come." And so there you go. There's a beautiful spring passage. The winter has passed, and flowers appear on the earth. Spring is supposed to be a time of hope and renewal, and so therefore the Omer comes at that time that and certainly we could use all the hope and renewal that we can muster during this period of time in our history as well. So now I've got one more thing I want to talk to you all about. Very interesting, in my opinion, the equinox and the every 28-year blessing of the sun. But does anyone have anything they want to talk about or ask before I move on? Okay. All right. Y'all ready for this? So this kind of speaks for itself. This is from a really wonderful book called The Jewish Book of Days by a rabbi named Jill Hammer, who I think I saw is doing some kind of a teaching online soon. The Jewish Book of Days is a wonderful book, very nature-based. There it is, right there. Jewish Book of Days by Rabbi Jill Hammer, and it's got a teaching for every day. So here's what she has to say about the equinox and the solstice. Obviously, the spring is an equinox. Can someone read where it says humans have marked the turning points? Just raise your hand if you want to read. Anybody?
I will.
Thank you.
I'm unmuted. Humans have marked the turning points of the solar seasons for thousands of years. The Western calendar still remembers them as the first days of spring, summer, winter, and fall. The Jewish calendar, by contrast, is largely lunar. There are only a few indications today that Jews might have celebrated these solar dates as sacred, though they are clearly named in the Talmud. Tekufat Nisan, the spring equinox. Tekufat Tammuz, the summer solstice. Tekufat Tishrei, the autumn equinox, and Tekufat Tevet, the winter solstice. And the Babylonian, is that it, or is
no? That's it for now. Hold on. Okay. So just to show you that the Judaism kind of does have a little element of recognizing the seasons, not just because the Omer and Passover in the spring, but also really recognizing these turning points. Each season turning to the other. And so we have a name for the spring equinox, which happened a few weeks ago, Tikufat Nisan. You'll recognize Nisan from the actual now name of the Hebrew month that Passover falls in, and that's the spring equinox. So now, finally, this is something that's just so amazing to me, and I can't believe I was able to sort of witness this. this. I'll read it. I got a typo. Let's see if I could correct a typo in real time. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Okay. All right. So I'm at the passage that says the Babylonian Talmud. So it says, in the Babylonian Talmud, in the Brekot 59b, we are told, one who sees the sun in her tikufah, right, or the moon in her power, or the stars in their orbits, recites this blessing. Blessed is the one who makes creation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, osei ma'aseh v'reshit. Rabbi Abai tells us this blessing is recited only every 28 years when the spring equinox falls so that the sun is in the same place it was on the day of creation. And then parenthetically, Jill Hammer says, this seems to fit with the rabbinic opinion that the world was created in spring, not in autumn. However, the plain meaning of the statement, because it uses the word tikufah, is that there is a blessing over the sun on each equinox and solstice, one we do not use today, but might adopt for use. So, two things are happening here. One is, actually, there is this blessing of the sun that has happened for thousands of years, every 28 years, because of this Talmudic passage. I'm going to get back to that in a second. Jill Hammer reads it differently. Because of the word tikufah, she says you should actually make a blessing for the sun every solstice and equinox. Interesting. That doesn't happen in traditional Judaism or even in liberal Judaism, but the 28-year thing does. And the last time it happened was 2009, and CRC, we had our own observance. The tradition has become that you wake up early to watch the sunrise. You kind of create some kind of a service, a shacharit service, and you make that blessing when you first see the sun. Osei ma'aseh v'reshit. So I have pictures from 2009 because I was there. Was that Helene? Were you here? Paul, Marion, were you there?
I didn't get up early, but I remember the event.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't have gotten up early.
Oh, it was so awesome. I wrote. Wait, Karen's gonna love this. We did this in Forest Park on Art Hill, and I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I rode my bike. Hold on. I think I called it Sun. Yep, there it is. Okay. All right. Do you guys see it?
No.
All right, hold on. Share. Wait. I know what to do. Wait.
Getting dangerous with this.
Hold on. Oh, I got it. Oh my God. Wait a minute. I can't control. Okay. So this is it. This was 2009. So obviously there's the sun rising. That I took. I took that picture for sure because I remember I got there first.
There's Molly.
And yes. And I thought that nobody was going to show up for a few minutes. I got there and it was still dark. I'm like, oh, well. And then people started to come. There was like 20 or 30 people. So you can see there's Rabbi Ed. We were doing, I can see, you're right, there's Molly. I think Dale is back there behind Ed's shoulder.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, my mind is, the gentleman in the hat comes to Saturday. So he's a friend. I can't think of his name. I feel terrible. Anyway.
That's not Jerry Padower, is it?
It is. Thank you. Jerry Padower, of course.
Wow. You must be dressed for work.
Jerry, if you watch this video, I apologize. It's just the time of day and it's the quarantine. So that's that. And then, of course, there's another view of us. There's the art museum, and there we are in our circle. I don't think you can really see. Oh, there's Robert Fishbone, but there's a better picture of him coming. I love this picture of Rabbi Ed with the sunbeam kind of coming into him. I gave Ed a framed copy of that picture when he moved to California. So then, oh wait, I thought there were more. Maybe not. There was another picture of Robert, but here, let's see if I can. Oh my gosh. You guys see it? Do you see it expanded now?
Uh-huh.
This is blowing my mind. I want you guys to know. There's 4 of you here with me, and this is blowing my freaking mind. So there's Bob Fishbone. Oops. Marion.
I'm going to teach you to program, Rabbi.
I'm ready. I wasn't ready before.
I know.
So there you So there you go. So listen, I think that's our class. I got to do the Omer, and it's just about time to do it. I had this baseball thing. Let me read that. Who are you guys? You guys baseball fans?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
So, well, is it okay, Helene? Indulge
Yeah.
us. All right. So obviously, it's very short. Spring is the time not only for flowers and nature and planting and Passover, but also baseball. Of course, like everything else, there's no baseball right now. But I do have this article called, I think it's the Kabbalah of Baseball, Baseball Kabbalah. And I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs from it in honor of baseball. It says, this is by a man named Ruvain Goldfarb. My purpose in the article is to examine the resemblances between certain Jewish mystical and moral teachings and the folkways of baseball, beginning with the remarkable congruity I've noticed between the Sefirot. There goes that. See, mysticism was going to creep in there anyway. The tree of life and the positions of a team in the field when an opposing player is at bat. I will ask you to imagine the layout of a team. 3 outfielders, 4 infielders, and the battery, which is the pitcher and the catcher. That's a total of 9 players. And the batter, you've got 10 players in the field at the time the ball is put into play. The same numbers of the Sefirot, the divine qualities of God in that Kabbalistic tree. All right? It's a schematic drawing of the universe used by mystics to contemplate and comprehend the workings of God, the energy patterns set in motion by the divine will. According to this analogy or metaphor, God might have said, play ball, instead of let there be light. And you've heard of the 7th inning stretch? Does that sound like Shabbat to you? Well, in any case, the tree with its 10 Sefirot may be superimposed upon the players in the field, poised to begin their game. So in this article, it tells you each position and the corresponding Sefirah. And then I'm just going to read the conclusion of the article, which says, evil changes shape and turn into its opposite. Baseball itself is a paradox fraught with ambiguity, uncertainty, and perennial unanswerable questions such as, would old-timers be able to compete with today's players? This kind of question parallels the midrashic suspicion that Noah, a tzaddik in his generation, would not have been so special in Abraham's time. There are also the what-ifs, the dangling sense that if a certain course of action had not been followed, then everything would have turned out differently. There are often excruciating post-game analyses as detailed as the debates about blind curves in Jewish history. Baseball is a game that offers life, like analogies, while Judaism is a religious civilization that strives to close the gap between metaphor and reality so that the kingdom of heaven may enter here in our earthly life. So anyway, there's the Kabbalah of baseball. In the few minutes we have before I count the Omer, any last thoughts, questions?
Randy, it's selfish, but years ago, I took Bina as my middle name.
Wisdom, yes.
And knowledge, understanding. I don't claim wisdom, but do you happen to know which position on the field Bina was?
Yes, I do. I do. Bina. Let's see what position. Mary, this is exciting. Drum roll, please. Bina is left field.
Oh yeah, I've been out in left field my whole life. It works. Thank you.
That's awesome. Oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to remember that one for a long time.
There you go.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Oh, the cat. What's the cat's name?
Chloe.
Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Allow us to lie and rise in peace. Shalom. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Give each other hope and give the world some hope in a very difficult time. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Misha Berach, a healing prayer for all who are ill and suffering. For all who are mourning, we pray for a Sukkot Shalom for them and for us all. Ufros aleinu Sukkot, Sukkot Shlomecha. Ufros aleinu Sukkot, Shlomecha. Cover over us tonight with a Sukkot Shalom, not just a shelter in place, but a shelter of peace. For you, for those you love, and for all creation. May this night be sweet and loving and safe and healing and renewing. Amen. Okay, so this is the sixth night. The sixth day, beginning tonight, of counting the Omer, which we just studied a little bit about, this unfolding. I hope that what unfolds from here is helpful and healing. We've just started the count, just like we've in some ways just started, I think, this sort of phase of our history in our lives, but the count does have an end point. So I'm hopeful that this period too will have a point where we can return. But in the meantime, we're here, and at least we're connected to each other in this way. And just thank you for hanging in there with me. If anyone did make it to Facebook Live, sorry that I cut you off for an hour. But I don't even think the video will be a video until whatever. So the blessing, again, is the same as we started with the Torah blessing, Asher Kitshanu with mitzvotav. There's that word mitzvah. But it ends with Al Sefirat HaOmer, this mitzvah that we're participating in of counting the Omer. Please remember that we'll be doing this every night, 8:30, except for Friday when it'll be part of Shabbat service, except for Tuesdays when it'll be part of the University series, and Saturday night when it'll be part of Rabbi Susan and Rabbi Jim's Havdalah. Otherwise, it'll be 8:30 on Facebook. Next Tuesday is Rabbi Susan on Yom HaShoah, and 2 weeks from today is Rabbi Daniel on Yom Ha'atzmaut and Israel. And then we'll figure out May. We'll figure out May and announce it in plenty of time. But there will be a university series in May as well. And so the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzotav v'tzivanu al sefirat ha'omer. Blessed is the Holy One whose presence fills creation. who gives us mitzvahs that bring purpose and meaning and holiness to our lives, including this mitzvah of counting the days between Passover and Shavuot, between spring and summer, between the time of planting and the time of first growth. This being the 6th day, as the sun set and it's nighttime, the 6th day of counting our Omer, the 6th day from the second night of Passover. I hope it is a day filled with holiness and love. And unless there's anyone that has anything they want to say, I'm going to say Laila Tov. Good night to you all. Good to see your faces. Thank you for that wave, Marion. I appreciate that. And we'll...
Randy, one quick thing.
Sure, of course.
I was watching the news this morning, and I believe it's an overpass in Detroit, and it had the sign, "Everything's going to be all right."
Amen.
First thing I said,
Thank you, Paul. You're the best. You're all the best. You're all awesome.
To this small group, I would like to tell you that I once challenged him about singing it to the Hebrew school kids. As in, how in the world can we tell children it's all going to be all right?
Yep.
So he took me into his office for rabbinic teaching.
Well,
he changed my mind and made me see the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. I knew exactly what you were talking about, Marion. I was not on.
I know, you got it.
So, I'm going to be back here for Shabbat morning service. That's my deal this weekend, is not Zoom, but Facebook Live Saturday morning. I think the Bogarts are doing Friday night, and I think Rabbi Jim is doing Torah study. I'm doing family services. You guys all know the timing by now. 6 o'clock is Friday night service these days. And then 9 o'clock is Torah study. 10 o'clock is family service. 10:30 is when we start Shabbat morning service. So that's what's coming up. Obviously, there's Rabbi Jim's class tomorrow. Yizkor on Thursday. There you go. Bye, guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you.